5 minutes ago, the Duke of Kent broke his silence and told the shocking truth about Camilla's bad family history. According to what he said, she has a scandalous family past full of extramarital affairs that sound a lot like her famous relationship with King Charles. Because of this expose, uncomfortable questions have been asked about whether her behavior is a family trait. The Duke's bold comments have put the focus back on Camilla and made people face the fact that her history of cheating has ruined both her future and the future of the Queen. Camilla's famous ancestor, Alice Keppel, Camilla's great-grandmother, Alice Keppel, was more than just a dangerous person in Edwardian society. King Edward VII had a long-term affair with her. The connection caused scandal in the royal family, but helped her family's social and financial standing for generations. The beginning of Alice's story took place in the late 1800s in Edwardian society. There were strict social classes, but smart and charming women could move up in the ranks. Alice was a young woman from a good family that was having a hard time with money. She married George Keppel, a soldier who didn't make much money. That being said, their marriage was not at all normal. When Alice started seeing the Prince of Wales, who would become King Edward VII, her husband not only didn't mind, he even supported it. George was said to have known that Alice's job as the king's mistress gave their family social benefits. Alice's relationship with Edward VII did not end quickly. Edward was known for his love of luxury and extravagance, and he found a friend in Alice who was not only beautiful but also smart and polite. She knew how to handle the king's short anger. Because of this, she was an important part of his personal life. Over the years, Alice became a regular at royal events, and she was often more visible than the Queen. Her impact went far beyond the king's bedroom. Alice's relationship with Edward VII changed the way her family made money. Huge gifts and financial help came in all the time. These things let the Keppels live in style. They went to the coolest parties, dressed the coolest, and hung out with the most important people of the time. Alice's girls went to private schools and were introduced to high-class social circles. They even got married to good people. The family's rise to fame and wealth set the stage for their continued success. It all led to Camilla becoming queen consort in the end. Alice was very good at avoiding trouble in her social life. Even though she was Edward VII's lover, she wasn't often shunned. Many people in society actually praised her for how discreet she was, and how she could keep the king happy without making the royal family look bad. Many people still liked her after Edward died in 1910, thanks to her charm and wit. By that time, Alice had made her memory strong, and made sure that for decades to come, the name Keppel would always be linked to power and influence. Because of what the Duke of Kent said about Alice Keppel, her legacy has had to be looked at again, especially in light of her great-granddaughter Camilla. There are a lot of similarities between the two people. Both became famous because they were close to future kings. At first, both Alice and Camilla were seen as scandalous outsiders who messed up royal weddings. Alice with King Charles while he was married to Princess Diana, and Camilla with King Charles during his marriage to Diana. Both of them have been accused of using their power for personal and family gain. Many people are now wondering if this kind of behavior is really passed down from parent to child, as the Duke of Kent said. The fact that Alice rose to fame through scandal and Camilla's controversial part in Charles's life point to a pattern that runs through the Keppel family. If you think about Camilla's family past of cheating and taking advantage of people, it changes how you see what she did. It makes me think that her behavior may not be so much of a surprise as it is a proof of something in her genes. Alice's story also makes us think about how the monarchy might be involved in letting these kinds of ties grow. The people and the royal family didn't say anything about Edward VII's affair with Alice, but they did put up with it. In the same way, Charles's relationship with Camilla was surrounded by scandal for years before it was finally recognized by marriage. This long-lasting pattern suggests a cyclical pattern of royal impropriety that still shapes how people see the government today. Duke of Kent's choice to reveal these ties has left royal watchers and historians trying to figure out what Camilla's family history means. Is her controversial role in Charles's life something she chose to do, or is it something she couldn't get away from? The answer might lie in looking at how these patterns have stuck around in the royal structure, connecting scandals from the past to those happening now. The Duke of Kent breaks the silence. The Duke of Kent's honest comments about Camilla's shameful family history confirmed what people had been saying for a long time. His statement, which he made in a private talk that was leaked, showed what he called a pattern of scandals that run in the royal family and affect many people close to them. The Duke's speech was mostly about Alice Keppel. His words about her made it sound like she had a lot of power that went beyond her relationship with the king. According to the Duke, Alice's use of her power to get money and fame for her family set a pattern that can be heard in Camilla's own troubled life. The Duke is said to have said that history seems to have repeated itself. In the 1800s, Alice Keppel caused scandal at the court, and now her great-granddaughter has done the same thing. There is no denying the similarities, they are almost genetically proven. He talked about how Alice Keppel's marriage to Edward VII helped her children and grandchildren move up the social ladder. There were new arguments about the monarchy's ability to change to modern values when it was suggested that Camilla's actions might be affected by a family history of scandal. The royal family was under a lot of stress when the news came out. It's hard to forget about Charles's affair with Camilla because of the Duke's decision to speak out. It also casts a shadow over her present role as queen consort. According to people who know, top royals are, and the public has not been forgiving. People who are against the monarchy have used the Duke's words as proof that the institution is full of old traditions and scandals. Royal family supporters, on the other hand, have had a hard time defending Camilla against claims that her behavior is similar to that of a relative. The next part of this story looks at how these scandals have changed how people think about the throne and how Camilla and Charles fit into this long-running story of cheating and trouble. Royal business through the years. A long time ago, the British monarchy was linked to grandeur and tradition, but its past is also full of scandal, especially when it comes to love affairs. The mistakes that King Edward VII made in King Charles' affair with Camilla have changed how people think about the throne and reinforced a pattern of behavior. King Edward VII, who was known as Bertie before he became king, set the rules for how royal affairs should be handled in the modern age. His many mistresses, such as Alice Keppel, were just as much a part of his memory as his political and diplomatic work. During the last 10 years of his life, Alice became his favorite friend. She had a lot of power over him and through him over the royal court. The moral authority of the throne was harmed by Edward's openly indulgent lifestyle, which included affairs with other women, but it also made it seem normal that the royal family didn't have to follow the same rules as everyone else. King Charles's rough personal life has a lot in common with Edward VII's way of life. One of the most well-known royal scandals of the 20th century was Charles' affair with Camilla while he was married to Princess Diana. Outrage grew when it was revealed that the heir to the throne had been seeing Camilla for a long time while married to Diana, who was a famous person in her own right. The public's dislike of Diana grew when she talked openly about feeling like the third wheel in her own marriage. The scandal took attention away from Charles's public tasks and hurt trust in the monarchy, just like Edward VII's behavior did in his time. The surprising thing about these episodes is how much they look like each other. In recent comments, the Duke of Kent used this recurring theme to point to a deeper pattern. He suggested that Camilla's actions, and by extension Charles, might be connected to a past that runs through her family. There is no denying the similarities between Alice Keppel and Camilla. Both women got involved with the royal family in shady ways, and both stayed together with married kings. Both events changed how people thought about the government in the end. The monarchy has often been able to weather these storms, but they have done a lot of damage to its image. In the past, when the press was more respectful, Edward VII's relationships were okay. The media, on the other hand, paid close attention to Charles and Camilla. In newspaper headlines, Camilla was portrayed as the bad guy in Diana's sad story. This story is still told today. Many people saw Charles and Camilla's relationship as an insult not only to Diana but also to the monarchy's dedication to duty and service. Every new scandal, like Edward VII's affairs or Charles and Camilla's relationship, shows that the royalty has flaws like everyone else. But it's these flaws that make the royal family more real. Scandals hurt and keep people interested in an institution at the same time, causing a paradox. And because the public is paying more attention, these findings may change the monarchy's role in British society. Because of the reaction from the public, Camilla's part in Diana's tragedy, in Princess Diana's life, and in her struggles is still one of the most controversial parts of modern royal history. People are angry again because the Duke of Kent recently told the public about Camilla's shameful family history. Diana was very honest about how Camilla's position in her marriage to Charles affected her. In the famous interview she did with Martin Bashir in 1995, she said, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." This honest statement showed how much Charles and Camilla's relationship affected her and how it made her feel unstable and low in self-worth. Diana thought of Camilla as more than just another woman. She kept following Charles around and making it harder for them to be happy together. Even though Charles was married to Diana at the time of Camilla's affair, it went on while he was with the Princess of Wales. Despite what most people think, Diana knew early on how important Camilla was. Reports say that she approached Camilla at one point and begged for the chance to be alone in her marriage. People really felt for Diana during these times when she was weak. They saw her as a woman who had been wronged and was caught between royal standards and personal betrayal. Through his words, the Duke of Kent has brought these old hurts to the surface. The Duke has given critics new reasons to wonder if cheating and taking advantage of people are deeply ingrained in Camilla's family past by linking her behavior to that of her great-grandmother, Alice Keppel, and her relationship with Edward VII. Many people have said that the Duke's words prove that Diana's legacy will last forever. They say Camilla's family history and background show a pattern of behavior that the royal family should never have allowed. People are angry about more than just what Charles and Camilla did in the past. It has to do with the idea that Camilla's promotion to queen consort is an insult to Diana's memory. The public's view of Camilla hasn't changed much since she became queen consort. Some people see her position as proof that Charles loves her deeply, while others see it as a prize for decades of careful planning. The idea that she is the great-granddaughter of Alice Keppel, a woman who gained a lot from her own royal affair, adds to the story that Camilla's actions were part of a long-term plan to gain power and influence. The problems Diana had with Charles during their marriage are now being seen through the lens of what the Duke of Kent said. If Camilla's actions really do come from a history of scandal in her family, as the Duke says, it makes me wonder why the royal family chose to publicly support her. Did the government allow history to repeat itself by giving Camilla and Charles's relationship the green light, even though it had a shady beginning? There is one thing that is clear. For many people, Camilla's deeds and her family history are now inextricably linked. It remains to be seen if the royal family can handle this new round of criticism. The role of heritage and inheritance was proven. The Keppel family's rise to fame is a classic example of how the British upper class kept their power and advantage by strategically marrying, forming alliances, and in Alice Keppel's case, having affairs with other women. Alice was Camilla's great-grandmother and King Edward VII's mistress. She set the tone for a family history in which personal ambition and social advancement often took precedence over morals. During her 10-year relationship with the king, she raised her family's standing and protected their finances. People in Edwardian society both liked and disliked Alice's part. People admired her for being charming and funny, which helped her deal with the pressures of royal life and public attention. Traditionalists, on the other hand, saw her as a sign of how morals can fall apart when selfish goals are put ahead of social norms. Even so, it was clear that Alice had an effect on Edward VII. She took care of his mood swings, gave him political advice, and became an important part of his inner group. People have always used personal ties to get what they want, not just in Alice's time. With Alice's money and ties, the Keppels were able to become even more well-connected in high society. Her children and grandchildren, like Camilla, grew up in a time when power was valuable. In order to stay close to power, people often had to break or bend social rules. Based on what the Duke of Kent said recently, it sounds like these ideals have been passed down for many years. It made a family attitude where cheating and taking advantage of others were not only okay, but even expected. His words show a bigger problem in Britain's upper-class people often didn't think twice about doing these things because they were seen as part of social standing. In this situation, Camilla's relationship with Charles is not seen as strange, but as carrying on a family custom. Camilla's childhood shows this pattern. Her family was very wealthy, so she learned all the customs and expectations of the upper class in Britain. It was in the early 1970s that she met Charles for the first time, and they quickly became friends. Their relationship was put on hold when Charles got married to Diana, but it never really stopped. This long-lasting relationship is similar to Alice Keppel's long-lasting relationship with Edward VII. It supports the idea that scandal and cheating run in the Keppel family. The legacy of the Keppel family also shows how the monarchy keeps these relationships going. By allowing and even approving of relationships like Alice Keppel and Edward VII or Camilla and Charles, the royal family has supported a way of life in which selfish desire often takes precedence over moral duty. This kind of involvement makes it hard to trust that the organization can change to meet today's standards of honesty and openness. Camilla's story isn't just about what one woman did. It shows how a system that has long put custom and power above personal responsibility has changed. It's still not clear if this heritage can be changed or if it will continue to shape the future of the monarchy. The Duke's expose is more than just a personal attack on Camilla at its heart. It's a criticism of the elite and royal systems as a whole. The monarchy has been through storms of betrayal and cheating before, but this new information shows how these patterns have hurt the institution's reputation and usefulness for a long time. The way people reacted to what the Duke said shows how controversial Camilla still is in the royal story. Many people think that she can never change the things she did while she was dating Charles, especially since they were together during the time that he was married to Princess Diana. The fact that the Dukes say her behavior is similar to that of her great-grandmother has only made this idea stronger. It changed Camilla's image from a single actress to someone who is the result of a family tradition. This story has started new arguments about whether she should be queen consort and whether her troubled past will permanently stain the monarchy's reputation. The trouble in the royal family can be traced back to King Henry VIII's friendship with Anne Boleyn. It caused England to split from the Catholic Church and start the Church of England. Henry's love for Anne while he was still married to Catherine of Aragon set a standard for royal drama that would last for hundreds of years. King Edward VIII, who is the son of Queen Victoria, is another striking case. In 1936, he gave up the throne to marry Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee. At the time, they were seeing each other, which was frowned upon. This shocked the British people and changed the line of succession. Recently, Prince Andrew's questionable friendships and claims of wrongdoing have cast a cloud over his public image and shown how royal affairs, whether romantic or not, can ruin the monarchy's carefully crafted image. As the effects of the Duke's words continue to spread, one thing is certain: the legacy of scandal, both personal and institutional, will continue to be a major problem for the monarchy as it deals with the challenges of the 21st century. If there are problems in the monarchies, both old and new, do you think they should all be brought to light? Tell us what you think in the comments. Please tell us. We're done for now. See you in the next movie.